So we need to actually the carbs of this motorcycle, they are overflowing with fuel. So we need to find that out, clean the internals of the carburetor. I'm going to take it all off, show you it step by step, how I'm cleaning it, what you look out for, and little tips along the way. So let's get that off the bike and sort that out. So here's a quick time lapse of me getting the actual carburetors out of the motorcycle. So this is a tricky job. The first time you do it, you'll find out a good way of doing it, but I had to remove quite a few little things. Obviously you're going to take the tank off, the seat off, possibly the air filter box, but I got to a point now where I can take the carbs out within 10 minutes. You'll have to make this quite a regular thing during this stage because we're tuning them and making sure it does well. The carbs themselves are basically where the fuel goes in from the tank, and then it goes into your engine and it mixes the fuel and the air to give you the right ratio for the engine to burn to create the power. Basically that's like a layman explanation. So with the carburetors, they will need rebuilding and need a lot of work because they have little jets in there, which are basically small nuts with holes in them where the fuel and air comes out from. Well, fuel comes out from. And with these, they have plastic rubber seals in there as well, and it is prone to getting junk in there. What I mean by that is if there's anything in the fuel that gets past the fuel, if you don't have a fuel filter on there, it gets into the carburetors, it clogs up the holes, and that's where you get problems. There are quite a lot of little things on this, and especially make sure you've got a good set of JIS screwdrivers, which is classed JIS, yeah, so Japanese industry standard. That's like a type of, it's not a Phillips head, it's like a cross head screwdriver. If you try and use a Phillips head, you will end up chewing it. I did notice that the last person that tried to do this must have used a Phillips because they chewed up all the screws. So I tried my best to get them out with the JIS screwdrivers, and then when that didn't work, I had to use impact drivers and a few other things. I will show you a separate video about how to remove chewed up or stripped head nuts, especially when it comes to carburetors. I found a couple of ways to remove them because I had to. And looking at this, because of the way it was done, I had to use a Dremel to kind of, sort out what they did. So mold grips and screw removers will be helpful here, but we managed to get the floats off, which is basically those sections there. I looked underneath and it wasn't that bad. There were little bits where it shouldn't have been there, but I gave it a full-on cleaning with carb cleaner. We removed the carburetors. This is only a twin motorcycle, so I've only got 2 of these to do. If you had a 4-cylinder motorcycle, there'll be 4 of these. But it is good. It's back to basics. It basically shows you how the motorcycle works. It's very straightforward. Once you understand what each bit does, you're like, oh, okay, so this bit fills up with fuel. There's a little float here that has a little spring on there, which then stops the fuel going into the under section of the floats, which basically stops it leaking out. I'll show you also how to stop if you have overflowing fuel from your overflow on your carbs, because I had that issue and I discovered why it was. So you'll see that in this video as well. I'll do you little overlay clips, or I might make dedicated clips about that. So here I've time-lapsed a lot of this up because it's basically mundane, cleaning up the carburetors, using a number of brushes, taking off all the old varnishing. What that basically means is when fuel sits in there for a long amount of time, it just starts to change and it becomes like a solid, and it attaches itself to all the aluminium or metal that you've got there. So I used a few little tools there to clean off as much of that as possible, even using sandpaper at some point with a little Dremel tool. That worked nicely. I tested all the floats just to make sure they're not leaking, and the screws for the overflow were not leaking. And then I had to rebuild it all back up again. I did take it apart to individually clean the carburetors as well, but that was a second step because I noticed that the screws were fully gone on the heads. So what I did do is I ordered some extra things to help me get those off, which you'll see in a separate update. I might put an overlay of it here so you can see how I managed to get the screws out. But to the best of the ability, I cleaned it. It has been solid cleaned in the past, I've been told. But I might have to get an ultrasonic cleaner to give it a second cleaning, just so peace of mind that I know I've done it myself, because you can never know what it's had in the past. 1979, remember this is from, and it may need more work. So I'm cleaning up all the main floats and the diaphragms. These motorcycles don't have a rubber diaphragm, it's got a metal one with seals around it, so it actually works. So getting the carbs back on the motorcycle, giving it a startup will be the next point of call. And we have got a few sections planned, so everybody that's been helping and commenting on the video. Thank you very much, as always appreciated, and there is some knowledge out there that you guys can share with me, so keep that coming. So here's a time lapse of me trying to get that back in the motorcycle. This is about 30 minutes it took me to get it back in, and then I discovered the easy way of doing it, and now it takes me 10 minutes to put it in and 10 minutes to take it out. So I'm learning as we're going through. You will have to get attuned and accustomed to your motorcycle, and as you do, you'll know how well it goes and how it feels. I did also take off all the carb screws. I ordered a new pack of replacement screws, and I replaced all the screws with new set of screws. It's interesting because online they offer you a few different options. You can use the hex Allen key bolted ones. I stuck to the same type. You'll notice after I was able to fix the stripped heads and take the screws out, I basically took the bars off holding the two carburetors together, used a brass wheel brush set to actually clean off the rust off that, and got that back on the bike. Let's have a quick little Max break here again, shall we? He's always around keeping an eye out while we're working, so keep tuned for Max and his antics as we get through the garage build. So thank you for joining me on this video. I basically did the carbs. Next up, we are going to be starting the motorcycle up for the first time to see how well it actually performs and what other work we need to do on the engine. I have got a painting series of the motorcycle as well. So thank you to trusted creators, and I'll see you on the next video.